Narayana, 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 Narayana. Om Sri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Sri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. Greetings. So in the previous segment, we were dwelling on the topic of Gnata versus Sakshi, knower versus witness. This is a very important distinction that has to be clearly understood, because the term Gnata or knower is primarily in the empirical world, that is our transactional or relative world. Rather, Gnata belongs to, the knower belongs to the transactional world, the one who knows, the one who eats, the one who sees, the one who suffers. Because there is a person who thinks he is suffering, there is a kind of suffering, and there is a cause of suffering. Similarly, the eater, eaten, and eating. So these all triads belong to the empirical or transactional world, but the Sakshi does not belong to this empirical world. Meaning, there is no transaction between the witness and the objects of the empirical world. There is no interaction between them. This is the most important distinction. The teaching of the Upanishads is to say that you are not this enjoyer, doer, agent, karta, bhokta, you are not that. You are the witnessing consciousness, which is a mere witness, kevala sakshi, meaning that knowing principle is never in contact with the world that we experience and suffer. It is only a witness. It is not an ordinary word that we use as a witness in English, wherein the onlooker is generally termed as a witness. But this onlooker also has his own opinions, judgments, gets emotional and gets involved. Even though for some time he may be an onlooker, may not participate in the action itself, but undergoes many mental, emotional feelings. But such changes do not occur in the witness Sakshi as we are talking about in the Vedanta philosophy. Here the Ishvara and Brahman, if you look at the difference between the two, Ishvara and Brahman, Ishvara is the creator. So creator is involved in the creation. He creates, we say. So which means that there is an agentship of some sort in the Ishvara. Whereas the Absolute is not involved in that. Absolute is not involved in the creation. So Vedanta postulates that the Absolute, only because of the association with the Maya Shakti becomes Ishvara. He appears as the agent of creation, but the Absolute itself is not a creator. Similarly, I, as a conscious entity, the knowing principle, am not involved in any action. But owing to the mind, identification with the mind, wherein the notion of the agentship, enjoyership is located as a vritti, as a modification of the mind. Having identified with that modification of agentship and doership, I, the aware being, who is ever free and never in contact with the mind, I feel that I am the mind itself, and hence I am the agent who is represented as a vritti or a ripple or a modification of the mind stuff. So here Acharya Shankara has done a marvelous decoding of the statements of the Upanishads to propose this principle of superimposition, mutual superimposition, anyonya adhyasa, meaning the gunas of the anatman are superimposed on the atman, and the lakshana of the atman is superimposed on the anatman. Of course, I particularly did not use the word guna here, because the Absolute is free from all the qualities. That's the reason. But however, we recognize the Absolute by the essential, as an essential existence, essential consciousness, essential ananda. So those essential qualities of the self reflect in the anatman, whereby the anatman shines with all those identifying features of the self. Similarly, the gunas and lakshanas of the anatman appear as if they got mixed up and they get superimposed on the self, because I do not see a split in myself as two things. I do not see myself in ordinary parlance as an entity separate from the body, mind, intellect. So as far as the Vedanta is concerned, the only teaching is that you should know that this awareness, consciousness, knowing principle is never associated with the body. Identification with the body, mind, intellect. When we say body, that should imply body, mind, intellect, because all these three are shariras. Body means a sharira. So, the same way, it's a gross body or a subtle body or the causal body, as we say. Or we say in the Panchakosha Viveka, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. These are the sheaths, as it were. There are no real sheaths because we denounce any anatman existing independently. It is only a projection. So, these are koshas as if they are koshas, as if they are sheaths. But in truth, they cannot bind the self. But the self appears as if it is bound by these sheaths. Why? Because of lack of discrimination. As long as I, as an intelligent, as the only intelligent principle, neither the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya are conscious by themselves. They are not intelligent. They don't have ability to know anything by themselves. In the night, this body falls without consciousness. It doesn't know where it is. So the only existing principle that has capacity to know is the self, the universal self, one and only one. So that is my true identification. But it appears as if I have discarded everything else and have identified myself with one body, mind, intellect. And similarly, the same consciousness identifies with another body, mind, intellect. Now there is a duality. Now there is a multiplicity. Now the transaction is possible. So the presentation of the Upanishads is that this universal consciousness, there is a tat srishtva tadevanupravishat. Like this we see a Shruti statement, tat srishtva tadevanupravishat. Having created that, it entered it. Having created various bodies, it entered those bodies, as it were. Because all these bodies are created within the self. All the ripples are created, all the waves are created in the same water. So there is no more water entering the waves, because the wave is no different from the water. In the same way, this projection of the manifested universe is infused with the Creator as if the Creator entered into it, because it is the same supreme consciousness, universal consciousness, that is shining through the various manifestations of this universe. Like in the Svetasvatara Upanishad, the mantra says, Tvam stri, tvam pumanasi, tvam jirno dandena vanchasi, tam jato bhavasi, vishwato mukhaha. So he says, you are one. You appear as this woman, as a man, as a child. You appear as an old man, moving with a stick as a support. You are truly unborn. But jato bhavasi vishwato mukhaha. Jataha bhavasi vishwato mukhaha. And you are born. Vishwato mukhaha, where this entire universe is the face. Vishwato mukhaha bhavasi means the faces spread all over this universe, and you are that. Tam stri, tvam pumanasi, tvam jirno dandena vanchasi, jato bhavasi vishwato mukhaha. Svetasvatara Upanishad, perhaps the last mantra of the last chapter. So it is only one universal consciousness which is working through this body, mind, intellect, that body, mind, intellect, that body, mind, intellect. But having identified with that body, mind, it thinks as if it is separate. The whole behavior that we see in the universe is these awarenesses have split up and then working. So, in the common man's philosophy, means without really taking help of the Upanishads, they would say there are many individual consciousnesses. So they say many jivas are there. If you take the word jiva to mean individuals, I have no problem. But to mean individual consciousness is a problem. If you accept a reality for this jiva, as I mentioned earlier also, having read it from great Mahatmas' writings, that there is no jivatma word used in the 10 Upanishads. Surprising? Not even in the Gita. Jivatma word is not there. But however, people have cooked up this distinction. When they see one place, they say Atman is Jivatma. Other place, when they see the same word Atma, they rephrase it as Paramatma and then create two. Just because they are not able to reconcile with this fact that this experiencing of joy and suffering is to this aware being, which is myself. Because the suffering is not acceptable for Paramatman in their view. And they say, anyway, and the Atman is presented as if it is disconnected from the Asanga Purusha. So, conveniently they switch on to that idea of Asanga Purusha for Paramatma, but whereas Jivatma they have created, saying this. Whereas Acharya Shankara resolves this problem by saying it is only an adhyasa, mistaken notion, false knowledge. Just to emphasize this idea of false knowledge, the idea of a rope snake was given, the idea of a Murtiketyeva Satyam. It's like this in the Chandogya 6th chapter, the teaching of Uddalaka to Shvetaketu is explained. So we need to bring in the same understanding while studying the Gita 2nd chapter. And then carry it to 3rd chapter, 4th chapter. And see, whenever there is an activity mentioned, that this is out of adhyasa, in the state of ignorance, avidya kale, this idea of doer and enjoyer comes in. Whereas doership and enjoyership is the state of the vrittis in the mind, as Krishna, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has said, Bhumihi, Apo, Analaha, Vayuhu, Bhumirapo, Nalo Vayuhu, Kham Mano Buddhirevacha, Ahankara iti yamme, Binna Prakriti Rashtadha. So wherein he classified Ahankara, Aham Kartrutvam, as part of the Prakriti, whereas I am separate from the Prakriti itself, as he has explained there. So if we bring in this, the idea of doership, enjoyership, we need to lodge in the Prakriti and then remind ourselves continuously that I am an eternal Sakshi. It is not that I have become involved sometime and later by doing some discrimination I became a Sakshi. No. I have been an eternal Sakshi. Even at the time of mistaken notion that I am an agent and an enjoyer, I have been free. Even at the time when we see a thief on a post, when we see a snake on a rope, they were never, the rope was a rope. It is not that snake appeared and disappeared. It is only a mistaken knowledge. Same way, the Jiva Bhava is superimposed in the state of ignorance. The question comes in, as people have genuinely raised this question, means what is the locus of this ignorance? Who is ignorant? That a question comes. Then we say this is because of ignorance that the multiplicity is seen. The first question people raise is, who is ignorant? Who is ignorant? Then Acharya Shankara in the Brahma Sutra questions back the same thing to the questioner, saying, you tell me, who is the person who is ignorant? He says, the Pratipakshi, the opponent says, you are only telling me that I am Jnanaswarupa, I am Sachidananda. Where is this question of ignorance coming in? He said, if you know that much, you are not ignorant. If you have agreed to this conclusion that you are free from ignorance eternally, then you are not ignorant. So only to the one who does not inquire, because he is experiencing the world of good and bad, of pain and joy, pain and comfort, joy and sorrow, heat and cold. Because of this experiencing, we have to give a causal reason, because we are interested in the cause and effect in the empirical world, in the world of our transactions. So Vedanta says, Okay, this is because of ignorance. But truly, when somebody has understood this, ignorance is gone. What is meant by ignorance? Ignorance does not mean not knowing physiology, psychology, sociology, astronomy, astrology. No. Here, ignorance means only one thing, that I do not know, that I am always disconnected from this body, mind, intellect. That is all. Right now, I identify myself with the body, mind, intellect, and in knowledge, when the ignorance is destroyed, all that is destroyed is this mistaken notion that I am the body, mind, intellect. Nothing else is going to change. If I didn't know physics before that, I will continue to remain without knowing physics, even after knowing that I am not the body, mind, intellect. If I do not know that 1 plus 1 is 2, just because I am an Atma Gnani doesn't mean I will come to know 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Because first of all, 1 plus 1 equal to 2 is an empirical knowledge. So all the knowledge which is in the empirical world, which is actually understood and known only through the intellect, has to be known only through the intellect. It's not going to outshine suddenly. But what will be known is, I am a witness of this intellect. That is known. What is meant by known here? It is not known as another piece of information in the brain, in the intellect. It is known by itself. How? Sakshat Aparokshat Brahma. Because what is separate from the body, mind, intellect is that Pratyagatman, the Chaitanya, which is the innermost, which is nothing but the Brahman, the universal consciousness, which is the fundamental knowing principle. And it knows itself because it is Sakshat Aparokshad. Means, what is meant by Aparoksha? Means it does not become a Paroksha Gnana to everything else. Means there is no other entity which says, look, this is Brahman. Nobody is going to say. Because this Brahman cannot be a Paroksha Gnana to anything else. So this Gnanam is Aparoksha Gnanam. Means only Brahman can know that it is Brahman. No other empirical entity can know Brahman. As we said, Gnata, Gnayam, Gnanam. So the Gnata cannot know Brahman. Gnata cannot remain separate and know Brahman. Not possible. Whenever the Gnata has to know, because Gnata has two things. One is the Buddhavritti and one is the Chaitanya, which are superimposed. So the superimposition between the two, the Gnata, which has got two components, the aware being which is part of the Vritti identifies itself, himself, herself as the eternal knower, separate from the Vritti. That means it is an involution, not going out. It is an involution to know. In the Gita, and also we hear the word Udasina. Udasina Udasinam Yavatishthati Nengade. Udasina, disinterested. The aware being is not going behind the sense organs, it is not going behind the manovrittis of joy and elation, it's not going behind them. Instead, it withdraws its awareness, power within itself, and then comes to know that it is the knowing being. It's not a time-bound being. Time comes out of it. So in knowing this is what we say that ignorance is destroyed, nothing else. But having known so much in terms of words, still we are not able to withdraw. Even in my last segment, maybe I lamented more that nobody is interested. Maybe I am wrong in that, because it is not possible. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says in the Gita, it is not mama maya duratyaya. It is not easy to cross over. But with a firm conviction, which is intellectual only, Now, with the teaching of the Upanishad, with the clarity that we gain, that another thing comes to my mind. We see a mantra in the Mundaka. Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samanam vriksham parishasvajatam tayoranyaha pippalam swaduvatti anasnan anyo abhichakashiti. So this mantra in the Mundaka explains as if Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya, on the same tree, on the same branch, Dva Suparna, two golden winged birds, Suparna, Sayuja Sakhaya, they are always associated. Sayuja Sakhaya, Sayuja, they are always together. Sayuja Sakhaya. Obviously, because this eternal being and the Gnata are never separate. As long as you do not inquire, you remain a Gnata or a knower. But in knowing, you become a Drashta or a Sakshi. So Gnata Drashta is what is the Dva Suparna. It's not that there are two birds looking at each other. Even the mantra does not say Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Vriksham Parishasvajatam Tayor Anyaha Pipparam Swadvati. In that one of them eats the fruits. Here the fruits are Karmaphala. Tayor Anyaha Pipparam Swadvati. Anasnan Anyaha means having not eaten. Anasnan Anyaha Abhichakasidi. It just merely witnesses, it looks upon. It doesn't say it looks upon the other bird. It just looks upon, meaning it is udasinaha, ityartha. It is asangaha. So, it is the same. In ignorance, it is a doer, karta, bhokta, having assumed the vritti of the mind to be itself. When it does not associate with it, it is the supreme universal consciousness. But we in our normal day-to-day life never cross these three states of Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti and stand as the fourth Turiya, Chaturiya. Turiya means Chaturiya, the fourth, which is Anasnan Anyan Abhichakashiti. If by discrimination we are able to stand apart, Anasnan Anyan Abhichakashiti, then it is totally freedom. Because then you come to know that not only that now I am separated, I had always been unassociated. So that is the knowledge that we are talking about. So even though we know these words fairly well by grace of Ishvara, by the kindness of the compassionate teacher who is really with you in your ignorance and trying to help you understand these words with the Upanishads. It's not his own brain and cooking up. Though he may employ or she may employ some tricks of the world trade, but the basic teaching methodology is only the way it is propounded in this way, by analyzing the Upanishad mantras and coming to a conclusion about the true nature of this aware being, which I am. Sakshat, Aparokshat, Brahma. Why Sakshat? This Brahman doesn't have another form to appear. He is always Sakshat. This Brahman does not change his form and appear as an old man or a stree. There also it said, Tvam stree, Tvam pumanasi, Tvam jirno dandena vanchasi, Jato bhavasi vishwato mukha. As if you are born, Jataha bhavasi. He is not born, Jataha bhavasi. Without being born, you become born. So in this way, when we understand that it is my own nature, it is being said and explained, and we slowly, by reduction of the kama krodha and the desire and penchant to become something in this empirical world, the becoming of the empirical world is to be given up. Because what you are cannot be given up anyway. By giving up what you are becoming, then you remain what you have been. This is the teaching of the Upanishads. This is the only thing to be known. Having known this, one has to live his life repeating this understanding within oneself, not as words, but bringing back by withdrawal. By Nivritti Marga, one has to come to know and destroy the ignorance that I am the body, mind, intellect. This is the only ignorance that needs to be denounced and destroyed, nothing else. Of course it is difficult, because first of all we must have vairagya towards the empirical world to be able to withdraw. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu Sri Guru Charana Arpanamastu Hari Om Tat Sat.